Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Tuesday. We'll break down a flash flooding risk, a strong to severe thunderstorm risk across areas of the country, and then we'll speak on everybody else also. Big heat wave really cranking up today. It's getting very hot in Texas. It's been pretty hot in Texas, especially if you live in the southern portions of the state, but the Southwest is also really going to feel the full effects of this heat wave starting today. So we'll speak a little bit on that also as far as temperatures, and then we'll break down everybody else also. After we get done breaking down today's forecast, we'll go on and speak on the latest from the Storm Prediction Center about the coming days ahead of us. I'm not seeing anything crazy as far as an outbreak of strong to severe storms or anything like that, but we will talk about the outlook going about 3 days out, and then we'll give you an update on the tropics. I am watching something that could potentially develop into something in the Caribbean, maybe the Gulf of Mexico, maybe off the coast of the Southeast, but for now my confidence is pretty low, and I'll talk about why when we get to the update on the tropics here towards the end of the video. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you ever considered joining the channel, now is definitely as good as any time to do it. The summer is very slow for my channel. Typically the views begin to drop off, and it certainly helps to support the channel, and just really appreciate everybody that continues to stay joining my channel. I've had some people that's been joining my channel for a few years now, just unconditionally. You know, I don't have anything to give back to you guys. You continue just to support my channel in that way, and I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you for everybody that continues to tune in every day, regardless if you're a member to the channel or not. I certainly appreciate y'all very much. I haven't done this in a while. Also, hit me up on Facebook and Twitter X. I know not everybody's big on social media. I'm not trying to pressure you guys to get a social media account. I don't think it would matter even if I did. You guys aren't probably going to create an entire social media account just because of me, but Facebook is an account that I think a lot more people have besides X, or Twitter is what it used to be called. And I'm really trying to grow my Facebook profile. It's always been very tough to grow that platform for whatever reason, but just a way to continue to get out information. I'm trying to post a lot more on that. So the link is on my YouTube on the header. So definitely hit me up there, and let me know if you like the channel. I'd like to know if it's an easy way to communicate with you guys too, even outside of YouTube. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So once again, a lot of flow over the middle of the country, promoting a lot of rain, a lot of storm activity. We got this more organized complex of storms that's popping off some strong to severe storms. No severe thunderstorm warnings as of right now, but this could re-intensify as it moves basically across the Texarkana area, eventually into Louisiana, and then it'll continue to kind of get more west to east, and then might actually move sort of southwest to northeast as it just kind of follows the flow in the atmosphere. We got a lot of rain scattered across the central portions of the country. Some storms, some just good old-fashioned rain. So we got some rain that we're waking up to here in the upper portion of lower Michigan. Models did very well when initializing with this, and they also did well with the upstate of South Carolina rain that we're getting around the Greenville-Spartanburg right now, this area right now this morning. So we do continue to get a little bit of moisture off the Pacific into Washington and Oregon. Southwest continues to be very quiet. Big day of heat expected today for sure. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, advisories, heat advisories, and the orange down here and over here in Nevada and areas of New Mexico, California. And then if you look here in the more darker pink color, almost purple here, this is excessive heat warnings. And we do have several counties in South Texas with that too, and many counties in California, southern Nevada, including Las Vegas, and then western and southern sections of Arizona will start to really heat up today. Flood watches continue to be up. You guys continue to get a lot of rain across areas of Louisiana, southwestern Arkansas, eastern Texas, Oklahoma, same people over and over again pretty much. Flood watch is even up for areas of northern Wisconsin, areas of Minnesota. And then in this mustard color up here, we got high wind warnings, and the more brown color here, high wind watches. Just a lot of strong wind activity up here. Flood watches continue for Washington State. The eastern U.S., nothing. You know, it's pretty quiet out here. The excessive rainfall outlook, we got to watch out in that same area I just mentioned. Don't want to be repetitive here, but, you know, southeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Arkansas, northeastern Texas, And then northwestern Louisiana, a moderate risk, which means there's a 40% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles at any given point. And then we got a slight risk that extends, almost the Gulf coastline all the way up to the Canadian-U.S. border. So a lot of areas in this region, yellow, even in the green, could see a good bit of rain today for sure. At least have an opportunity to. The Storm Prediction Center outlook, we have 2 slight risk areas to watch. And remember, some of this info could change, but I think that it's got the right idea with this. I think that we're going to have multiple clusters of storms, one ongoing right now, another one that will get going later on this afternoon that has a chance to intensify in this entire yellow area. It's a level 2 out of 5 risk, a slight risk. And then up here, more so just a line of storms that will sweep across this region. We'll have an opportunity to produce some strong winds, hail, and even a brief tornado in certain sections of this area. So large area does have a marginal risk, so you guys run the risk of strong and severe storms too. And then we got a pretty large area with a general risk. It'll be probably very tropical, very stormy in areas of Georgia and the Carolinas today too. So what is this driven off of? Tornado risk, 2% risk right here, which includes like Kansas City, Des Moines, all the way down to Wichita. And then down here also south of Oklahoma City around the Red River area, Wichita Falls, Fort Sill, you guys 2% risk of a tornado. And then the wind threat pretty much covers the entire slight risk area as far as the 15% risk in this area. And then the yellow area here, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat is in this entire slight risk area up here, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then in this little area here where we have an opportunity for some supercells, which means larger hail normally, you have not only the 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, or you also have that 10% risk in the black outline region with the black dashes going in between, which doesn't quite include the entire yellow circle here, but just about all of it. 10% risk of significant hail 2 inch in diameter or larger. All right, let's break down the southeast first. And, the further west you get, the higher the chance that these storms are going to be severe, to hit severe limits. But, once you get into Alabama, points east and northeast, more so just tropical downpours. Like yesterday, for example, at my job, it rained like an inch, inch and a half. But I went across town and I went home to my house, and my weather station registered like 1/100th of an inch of rain, like 0.01. So it's just kind of one of those days today, just like yesterday and the day before. And as you can tell, you get into this afternoon, I think that you'll have a better chance of rain along the Cumberland Plateau, North Georgia, northeastern Alabama, even in the southern Apps. And then we'll get pop-ups all across the Carolinas. And, don't get mad at your local weatherman or weather woman. This is a tough forecast day. That's why your weather app probably in this entire southeastern area probably says just a 30 to 40% chance of rain. It's a tough one. It's a 50-50 shot, quite literally. So I think that you'll have a higher chance here along west and just east of the Apps here. Into Kentucky, some showers. All the way up to West Virginia, scattered downpours all over the place. Could have a more organized area of strong to severe storms that develops maybe in the Boot Heel, Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, sweeps across western Tennessee, as you can tell. And then eventually this could bow out, kind of affect areas of northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. And then could wake up to a lot of shower and storm activity, heavy rain across middle Tennessee, northern Alabama, look up here in Missouri, and then across, the Carolinas. And then we have this big sweeping line. A little bit closer look to all of this, right? Scattered activity here develops this afternoon. And then more organized areas, strong to severe storms could get going here. Not a huge threat, just a marginal risk. Nothing crazy like a tornado outbreak or anything like that, or a huge threat of damaging winds. But there is kind of an isolated area, favored area here that could develop maybe a kind of small MCS, mesoscale convective system. This could be larger than what is forecast. This could be a little bit further south, impact the Memphis area later this afternoon, this evening. And this eventually could get into Florence, Huntsville, Alabama, and the southern counties of Tennessee as we get later into this evening. And then we have to watch what happens later in the wee hours of the morning, as we're probably going to wake up to a lot of widespread heavy rain and storm activity across the Mid-South and places like that. So on up the road to the northeast, nice start this morning, nothing going on. Once we get into this afternoon, some very isolated pop-up downpours are possible across pretty much anywhere in New England. More of a higher chance, I would say, down here in the mid-Atlantic, DC, Baltimore, maybe all the way up to Philadelphia. West Virginia, the Delmarva could get some scattered downpours, and they could drop a lot of rain just in 10 to 15 minutes. But it is showing a lot more, I would say, a higher chance of rain here in like eastern West Virginia, areas of western Virginia. And then eventually, as we are getting into like tomorrow morning, maybe a more organized area of rain in Maryland, southern, southeastern PA, very possible. Just scattered showers you're waking up to tomorrow morning. Nothing too crazy up here in the Northeast, even mid-Atlantic over the next 24 hours. South Central U.S., the pattern is basically copy and paste as yesterday. There's lingering what we call outflow boundaries, which act as kind of a lifting mechanism for the continuous development of showers and storms to develop kind of over the same areas. Literally, like there's leftover boundaries in the atmosphere that you can't really see. Sometimes you can, but they kind of just fire up storms. And if the atmosphere is able to recover, I mean, there's plenty of juice in the atmosphere. So this will be the case again. And we'll continue to see the HRRR model not handling what's going on right now in southeastern Oklahoma, starting to get into Texarkana. It's not handling that very well at all right now, but we'll see how it handles it as it continues to kind of head off into Louisiana. Louisiana, you could get more of some strong to severe storms than what this is showing some scattered activity from what's left over basically this right here. So, it does show this line of storms weakening. So the HRRR model, could be on to something here. But we continue to keep this going. There's that activity I mentioned here in Arkansas and western Tennessee. Look at all these scattered showers and storms here in Kansas. These could hit severe limits this evening, so definitely the potential for a stormy afternoon, evening here in central and eastern Kansas. And then, once again, here comes a cluster of storms developing in Oklahoma. And this is what we call, once again, and you guys already should know this by now in Oklahoma and eastern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas and surrounding areas, a mesoscale convective system. And this will sweep through, once again, over the same areas that are getting it this morning. This will develop tonight, sweep through the overnight hours, and eventually, make it into northeastern Texas. And then we'll see what it looks like as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Okay, and just a little bit of a closer look at this here. Here it comes. Storms develop up here. I'd watch out a little bit of a tornado risk up here in central Kansas. Not a big deal. But look at these storms. I mean, Oklahoma City, these are going to be hitting you guys pretty good, anywhere from 8 to 10 p.m. Tulsa, you could be getting impacted by this also. But this is a nasty look here. Damaging winds, some hail, and even an embedded tornado risk is possible sometimes with these mesoscale convective systems. We'll have to watch how far it kind of latches onto the boundary here and drifts west. But this dips all the way down into southeastern Oklahoma. Damaging wind risk, drops a lot of heavy rain, and eventually, as we're getting into tomorrow morning, could ooze all the way back southwest into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then it makes its way on through. And if you look at the winds based off this, run of the model, all right? So this right here is what's happening this morning, right? But if you continue to go back through this, you see how those colors light up over that region? See how they kind of, you start to see a lot of reds and whites right in here. This is picking up on that line of storms, that mesoscale convective system that moves through, produces damaging winds. 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds are possible right when this develops, sweeping through central Oklahoma, the southern sections of the state, and then the North Texas down here. Be aware to the overnight hours. This will continue to have some juice to run into and to just continuously feed it energy. So please be aware of this severe weather threat and this line of storms. And rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, I want to note the National Weather Service picking up on the rain and what's falling right now with this cluster of storms moving through this region. So you probably want to knock off a little bit of rain. But in general, between right now and the next 24 hours, grand total is going to be the potential for several inches of rain. But a few inches of rain is likely in this entire region right here. So be aware of the flooding risk too, guys. And then the heat getting a little bit further south down in Texas. And I also want to mention there is a risk of supercells to develop kind of in southwestern Oklahoma again today. That that one particular HRRR model run did not showed a threat well on that particular run. But this is actual air temp. Well, I'm sorry. This is air temperatures. This is the actual high temperature forecast for today, not heat index. Low 100s down here in southern Texas, might hit 105, 106 degrees. The air temperature, somebody might sneak and hit 110 somewhere out in central and west central Texas. But you remember, the further southeast and east you get into Texas, the more you get on the moist side of this heat, which means if you look at the heat index, right, let's take it to the hottest time of the day, which is right into here, I would say, around 4 to 5 p.m. Look how the heat indices get into the heat index gets like over 115 to 120 degrees in South Texas. You notice the heat index is actually lower than the actual air temperature here. It's because you got a dry heat. Dew points are much lower. You start to get down here in southern Texas, you get into the Gulf of Mexico moist air. So you have the heat index. So the air and temperature might be 105, heat index almost 120 in some areas. So very hot day, even all the way up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, guys. I mean, your heat indices are going to be well over 100, 105 degrees. So be aware of that. Now let's break down the north central U.S. Let's talk about the north central first, and then we'll kind of go down to the Midwest and then back up to the Great Lakes region. But this morning, dealing with a little bit of moisture. What's going to happen today in this area is a line of storms is going to develop. Could develop into eastern Dakotas, but more so will develop in the western sections of Minnesota. You guys are going to have some not a late, but a summer feel out here with a line of storms working its way through, capable of producing damaging winds, an isolated tornado, and hail as it sweeps through. So if you live in basically the entire state of Minnesota, be aware of some storms sweeping through from west to east. This is around 3 p.m. Storms are kind of making its way through the central portion of the state. They very well could intensify right here in the Sioux Falls, Sioux City area, and then maybe even affect areas down here to Omaha. These storms will be hitting areas, most of the counties here in Iowa, all the way down to central, maybe kind of south central Iowa. But these storms continue to sweep across the area, and then we'll probably lose some steam as they get closer to the Great Lakes area. But, you look at the wind threat for today, and you look at the projected wind swaths with this, and it does pick up on some gusty winds. I mean, the potential is there for 35 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these more intense clusters of storms that are sweeping from west to east across Minnesota and areas of Iowa and surrounding states. So be aware of that. You head on down a little bit further south into Missouri, Illinois, even northern Arkansas. I do want to mention to you guys, as we continue to get into the afternoon hours, I think we'll get widespread showers and storms across Illinois, Peoria, Springfield, both Springfield, Illinois, and Missouri. And those will kind of cluster up and, affect northern sections of Illinois. Very moist atmosphere in this region, so just numerous showers and storms. Could be a stormy evening here once you get into Chicago. And then we'll have to watch, getting close to midnight. A lot of shower and storm activity could begin to sweep through Missouri. This could produce a lot of heavy rain, a little bit of a flooding risk. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have some nasty storms kind of sweeping through southeastern Missouri at this point. So even look up here in Indiana. Don't want to leave you guys hanging. I mean, we take it all the way back to Indiana, some just isolated downpours today. But then, you start to get into later this evening, and I'm talking about closer to midnight, becomes a good bit more widespread, especially the central and northern sections of Indiana. So definitely this entire area you're looking at runs a good shot at a storm today, for sure. So the Great Lakes region, kind of the same thing. I think that a lot of the afternoon will be quiet in the Great Lakes region. But, as we are getting into this afternoon, really this evening around dinner time, look at all those storms and northern Illinois starting to get into the southern half of Wisconsin. And, by the time you're about 8 p.m., it's a very stormy evening for everybody you see on your map, just about, except lower Michigan, maybe like the central and eastern UP of Michigan. But look at all the weather coming in. But it does look like it begins to weaken pretty quick as we get into after midnight. These storms begin to lose some intensity, but they could re-intensify. They could maintain strength. By the time you get to 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, we're waking up to maybe some heavy rain, some storms, Stephen, up here in the UP. I know I got a couple other loyal followers up here in the UP of Michigan too. You guys could wake up tomorrow morning to certainly some storms or maybe just some heavy rain up here for sure. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. It really likes this area up here of northeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin the most, of an inch, inch and a quarter. But you go down here, I think there's an opportunity that somebody could get over an inch of rain here in the Midwest, areas of Missouri and Illinois too. So be aware of the weather around here. Now, as far as weather, the western U.S. seems pretty quiet. You know, we're going to continue to get a little bit of shower activity up here in the Pacific Northwest, as you can tell. A little bit of shower activity in northern Idaho, northwestern Montana. But that's the only storyline as far as weather falling from the sky. Not a whole lot to speak on. It's really the heat in the Southwest. And I mean, today's not going to be terrible. Nothing unheard of, but it's getting pretty hot. I mean, Las Vegas getting probably well into the 100s today. The Valley of California. What do y'all call it? The Sacramento Valley? I always just call it the Valley region of California. But you can tell, you know, heat is flexing in this region. Temperatures will get into the 90s to the 100s. But once again, the immediate big cities along the California coastline, just protected from the cool waters of the Pacific, only 70s. So, I mean, pretty nice. But you get a little bit further north, it cools off, a little bit of trough in place, you know, allows for temperatures not to be as brutal. Out, you know, into the eastern U.S., I mean, it's going to feel like an early summer day. I mean, there's nothing really else to speak on. There'll be a pocket of warmer temperatures here in the Ohio Valley, lower Michigan. Somebody in lower Michigan is probably going to hit 9 degrees a day. 70s and 80s, depends on your elevation in the northeast. 80s and 90s, depends on your location. Temperatures could be held down in certain areas because of cloud cover and rain. Brutally hot in areas of Texas. Somebody's probably going to hit 110 today. There's this sweeping line of storms with the associated cold front that cools you down. Soon as this line of storms moves through, for example, I mean, I'll kind of back this up. You're probably going to rise into the 80s pretty fast in Minnesota today. Okay, but as soon as that line of storms moves through, like, look, this is Minneapolis right here. 83 degrees around 4 o'clock, 81 around 5 o'clock, then bang, drops about 15 to 20 degrees. So a little bit cooler across the northern plains, but I mean, still very comfortable. So moving past today, there is a risk of severe weather for day 2, which is tomorrow. Marginal risk, level 1 out of 5 for the Ohio Valley. So we have that. Then just a large area, the entire eastern U.S., a general risk of thunderstorms. And I think we'll have widespread thunderstorms tomorrow. I just don't think we have the atmosphere in place to really generate basically the flow, the favorable wind pattern aloft to basically generate a very significant severe weather threat. But there's going to be some strong to severe storms tomorrow. And then we start to get into our Thursday. Same kind of deal, maybe not as wide as an area, but the entire eastern U.S., the entire Atlantic coastline, a risk, and Gulf coastline, a risk of thunderstorms. Just more of a summer pattern. You're just lacking. You're lacking things to really generate any kind of severe weather in this area. So, luckily, severe weather is starting to. I'm just not seeing anything significant. I think we're about to get a huge trough in the eastern U.S., and I think that's going to cut down on some things significantly for the foreseeable future, but we'll see what happens. Update on the tropics. I might start doing this every day, guys. I'm not sure. But an update on the tropics, update, no tropical cyclone activity expected over the next 7 days. So there's nothing highlighted. I can guarantee you they're seeing what we're seeing as far as the GFS. And speaking of the GFS, let's talk about it. Let's go over some model guidance for a couple minutes here. So if you're active in the weather community and you're a big fan of watching hurricanes and stuff like that, then you probably know that the GFS has been spitting out a tropical system. And this morning's run is no different. We start off Thursday morning, June the 6th. If you're confused about the time frame, look up here, JUN, June 06, June the 6th, Thursday, 12Z, stands for Thursday morning. All right, not a whole lot going on as we get into Friday. We're starting to get a little bit more moisture showing up here. And then we start to get into Saturday. Still not a whole lot going on. And then we start to get into Sunday. A little bit more moisture showing up into here. And then we start to get into Monday. See the L pop up here right off the western tip of Cuba. All right, we're starting to get a little bit of a low pressure. At the same time, what looks to me is a trough dropping down into the eastern U.S. We take it into June 11th, next Tuesday morning, a week from today. You got a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure right into the Florida Keys. And typically for me, and this isn't always the case, guys, but when I see a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure, during hurricane season out the Atlantic, the Gulf, the Caribbean, to me, that's you're getting close to tropical storm status. Not always the case. You just, when you're kind of looking at averaging all the millibar numbers out or whatever you want to do, when I start to see into the 900s, then I'm like, okay, well, we probably have something going on here. This is probably going to be a tropical system. But that's not what I'm saying is going to happen. This is just one model run. This is a week out, 998 millibar low, right off the southern tip of the peninsula of Florida. At the same time, you see how you have this weird, I'm going to try drawing here real quick. See how you have this weird little bowl of the precipitation up here in the eastern U.S.? That is a trough digging down. And the models are pretty set. I mean, nothing's set in stone once it's a week out, but they are adamant that we are going to have a big trough in the eastern and central U.S. So if anything does develop, like the GFS is showing, it would most likely get pushed off. But that's if anything does develop. And I have my doubts it will. But the GFS continues, kind of rumbles this through the northern Bahamas. 992 millibar low. This would definitely be Tropical Storm Alberto and next Tuesday evening. But then it heads on off to the Atlantic and doesn't really bother anybody else. Okay. Now, what about the Canadian? I know the Canadian's probably not the best model to look at with the tropics, but certainly worth looking at this range. And, we get into Saturday morning. We get into Sunday morning. There's a low pressure. There's kind of an area of precipitation, right? We get into Monday morning. And once again, you're seeing that same look as the GFS. Kind of a bowled out area of precipitation. Nothing in this region. That's your trough digging down, bringing out a lot of dry air, which symbolizes some sort of cold front. And there's an L right here. Some sort of tropical system based off this model run. This would likely push this somewhere like this, except it moves in a little bit different, so it's able to sneak a little bit further west in the Gulf of Mexico. So you keep this going, and you notice how this L immediately starts to move to the northeast right here. Well, this does move some sort of tropical energy Monday evening, a little bit quicker with it, into Florida. Brings much needed rain, actually. And then it moves it off the coast of the southeast, tries to strengthen it, and then it heads on off just like the GFS. Now, the European, it doesn't want anything to do with any of this. It has some moisture dancing around here this weekend. Well, this is getting into this weekend, but it just is like, man, we're not going to develop a tropical system. It doesn't show anything. Now, we get into next Monday afternoon. Shows a big area of precipitation here. There's that bold out look up here with that trough. And it does show an influx of moisture into Florida next Tuesday, a week out from today. You see this kind of area in green? Shows a lot of moisture, just doesn't develop anything. It really doesn't. So it's something to watch. It is. And, you look, I want to look at this. This was 8 runs ago off the GFS ensemble. Okay, this GFS ensemble makes up about 21 different runs and throws them on this particular output on Tropical Tidbits. It throws them all on your screen. So where you see a number here in 04, I think that's a 98 off the western side of Cuba. This is where it's on this particular run. It's showing that a low pressure forms on one of these members, and it kind of throws them all on the screen, right? And the more highlighted yellow colors you see on this, that is basically where the general area where it's trying to show more stronger tropical systems based off these 21 members, if anything does develop. So this was 8 runs ago. I want to take it all the way to the most present run this morning, okay? Okay, we're starting from 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's one more, actually. So I didn't count right. But what I want you to notice, look how it drops off significantly. Like, look at bright yellows. That's a pretty decent signal. And we're getting a little bit closer in time now. We're taking it all the way to the present run. And you notice how it gets a lot more, not as vibrant with the yellows and stuff like that. You're not seeing as many members now. You lose that yellow shaded color. Well, that's because, in my opinion, the GFS, which does this a lot, is just kind of losing that signal off the ensemble. The GFS model run itself still continues to show it. So my question is, over the next 24 to 48 hours, is the GFS going to lose the Caribbean storm? And if you're wondering, what is this driven off of this time of the year? Something called CAG, CAG, Central American gyrum, you know, some people pronounce it differently, but Central American gyre, and GYRE. I think I'm thinking about it too much, and now I'm messing it up. You know how I am with punctuation, guys. But it's basically this huge area abroad, low pressure, that sits over Central America, and sometimes it can drift to one side or the other of Central America. And then every once in a while, it can develop a tropical system in the Eastern Pacific or the Western Atlantic being the Caribbean, or sometimes the Gulf of Mexico. It can happen this time of the year, and it can also happen in the fall a lot. So that would be what this is driven off of, and we just have to watch. And, you know, the European ensemble, the signal's pretty weak, guys. I mean, it does start to show something early next week, you know, but it's pretty weak. It's pretty weak. So we'll continue to watch this. Don't want to talk it to death, but I am going to mention it, at least mention it a little bit in each video, but not worth talking to death. So Central American gyre. Central American gyre. We'll figure it out, guys. You guys have an awesome day. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you again soon.